Hello and welcome to Lights,
Camera,
and Conversation. My name is Walid Shaya.
I'm Kavita Raj.
And we are your hosts, and we're so excited for episode 5.
Oh my gosh.
Let's dive right in.
Yes.
First off, Kavita, how was last week?
Thank you for asking. I had such an interesting week. It was the rollout process after a song is released and after all the excitement of seeing all the different playlists it's on, all the different reviews and articles about it. Now comes the process of keeping the song going, having its own life online, and continuing the engagement. So my whole week was reaching out to influencers on all socials and negotiating contracts and agreements for them to help promote the song and to take it further. So it's just great. It's all kinds of conversations. So that was my whole week.
So
how was your week?
I had a very exciting week. I got to be on set for a film called Leaves of Glass.
Oh my gosh.
And it'll be coming out in a couple months. It's a suspense horror short film, definitely dark. And I think it's very thought-provoking and cultural and well-written. I'm so excited about it.
This is so great.
Scotty Felix, he's behind it. So more to come on that, but I got to be on set, which is one of my favorite things to do,
Yes.
my favorite places to be. It's always a dream being on set. And we're going to talk more about being on set today. It's today's topic, coincidentally.
Yeah. And cheers to your
Thank you.
movie that's
Cheers.
going to be coming out in a few
Can't
months.
wait.
Very exciting.
Yes, I'm so excited. So more on that soon. And let's dive into talking about working on set expectations, preparing before you get there, what to expect there, and what to do if things don't go the way you expected.
Yeah. And how do you make the most of the situation then, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you want to start us off on a couple of your recent experiences and how they were similar and how they were different as well, and kind of what unfolded?
Absolutely. So I'm going to begin at the beginning. What better place?
Yeah.
I want to talk about my first personal 2 on-set experiences, okay? And this one was for a big indie film that was shooting in my college. It's a film that's now out. You can watch it on a lot of streaming platforms. It's called A Kiss for Christmas, and it used to be called A Christmas Kiss.
Okay.
All right. Rebranding, that's a whole other thing for the film to have another life. So I know they changed the title. But back to the beginning, this was my first project, and I was behind the scenes for this film. I got to work as a production assistant, and then I got bumped up and promoted because I designed a cool flyer, and I was always showing up, and the flyer was for casting background.
And
I ended, well, thank you. And I ended up running the casting for background and featured roles. So I'm credited on that film for extras casting. And it was such a cool experience. From the first day arriving on set to, the last, it was a family. And I came to set, greeted so professionally, the first AD, the second AD assistant director, right? Down to the main director and producers, they all were so kind, ran a tight set. I had a very positive experience, and that was my first experience, and it was long lasting because it was a feature. So I share that because Kavita, it was such a shock for me. I was shooketh, as they say. When I went to my second shoot, I was on camera this time, all right? And I showed up, and I was early, which I think is important, right?
Yeah.
Not that early. I think reasonably half an hour maybe. But no one knew where to send me, what to do with me. I ended up in a room beyond my call time, waiting for a while, just waiting for production to come and get me dressed or tell me what to do. And here's the thing. You hear this phrase, hurry up and wait, a lot when it comes to set. I'm happy to wait. It was just more of the fact that I didn't know what I'm waiting for or how long I'm waiting. No one came and offered me water. Listen, it's nice to have crafty and all the big things. That's always so lovely, right? And important too when you have people on set all day to keep them well fed and nourished, keep their energy up. But, I didn't even have water, stuck in this room for hours, trying to also mentally prepare to give them a performance when it's my time, whatever that is.
And what's even scarier is to not know what's happening, right?
Correct.
If somebody came and set that expectation that, hey, I know we're running super late, but it's going to be 4 hours.
Right.
But in 4 hours, we're going to call you, and this is what's going to happen. Until then, here's some food, some water,
Right.
the basics. Yeah.
And eventually they got to me. And what was even more wild was I was put up in a hotel by the team to shoot the next day. It was a 2-day project.
Okay.
And that night, they canceled me for the next day. I didn't even have to go in the next day. And I was very confused. And it didn't have anything to do with me. They didn't really know me, nor it was a result
Nothing
of my actions.
personal.
But that was my second experience. And it came right after this euphoric time of my first experience on a feature film set with an indie crew that's just so lovely and such great filmmakers and an awesome family. And it really threw me off guard because I showed up expecting the same experience
Yes.
because that's all I knew.
Yeah.
And it was that moment that led me to realize no experience on any film set's the same as the previous one.
Yeah.
It's a different group of people. It's a different timeline. It's a different project. It's a different piece of art, text, script, music, whatever. And it's
Budget.
going budget, absolutely. And it's going to be a different experience. So you have to go in having some sort of idea about what you're bringing to the table, know where to go literally and show up. But from there, be flexible and be able to go with the flow.
Yeah, because if you have this level of realistic expectation, you won't be too disappointed.
Right.
So to keep your eye on the prize, so to speak, and to keep your, kind of game on, I think it's important to just go with the flow and understand that, okay, that was that experience, this may be different. And also, I do think that what's a little bit of a challenging situation is that the larger the sets get, the higher the expectation of everyone, right? As an artist, you're expecting it to be like a tightly run set, and you're expecting the schedules to go on time. You're expecting your roles to not like be changed,
Time
revolved.
is money.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And definitely to take decent care of your artist and your performers.
Absolutely.
And I think that leaves people with like a good memory of the experience, and it really adds to the vibe and the energy.
It's
on
a
set.
creative collaboration.
Yeah.
We need to get along and, feel positive and be
Yeah.
happy to be with each other.
Absolutely. As someone who has produced a few music videos,
Right.
and been on set creating these environments, that's something that as a small independent production house, it's something that I'm very mindful of.
Yes.
To make sure that whether your set has like 10 people or 40 people or 50 people, it is important to make sure that everyone on set feels like they know what they're doing,
Yes.
where they need to be. Delays are normal, delays are bound to happen, but as you said, stay communicative, keep the expectations real for them as
Yes.
to what's happening, and try to limit cancellations and cuts last minute.
Absolutely. And whether there are cancellations or cuts or not, you lead with kindness.
Yes.
I think that's, a big deal breaker for me, and what sets a lot of sets apart from others are I vividly remember experiences I've had where the people have been kind,
Yes.
where I've left saying, I can't believe we're wrapped. I'm going to miss everybody.
Yeah.
And I do also know of experiences that are unfortunately still, in my mind where I was counting down the hours to leave that set. And I
Right.
was just wondering what the product's going to look like eventually. And it's not sometimes one person's fault or the other. Sometimes it's a producer, sometimes it's a group, it's a constraint you're in. But I think ultimately you just have to focus on doing your best, bringing to the table what you've been obliged to do,
Yeah, yeah.
and getting out of it. So I'd love to hear from you too. How do you troubleshoot when things don't go well?
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, having been on both sides of the coin, and even as a parent with a kid that is going to be on set, whether it's a commercial or whether
Yeah.
it's a music video or whether it's a film or actually a show, right? You go in there with reasonable expectations. Generally, people tend to treat minors with a little bit of a kid glove, so to speak. They are a bit cautious, mindful of time, because there is like limited hours that minors can work, and they have to have certain amounts of breaks and things like that. So, keeping that in mind, people are a little more mindful in general. Having said that, there are changes, there are last minute kind of alterations to the scene and this and that, and having been through both large sets and small sets. There is no such thing as, oh, the large set is better, the bigger
Right.
budget situation is better, as you experienced as
Right.
well. It doesn't mean that a bigger budget, a larger set means things are going to be running more smoothly. Sometimes it's actually, ironically, the smaller set
Right.
with the tighter budget that works really well.
Yes.
If my kid is really in need of knowing what's going to happen next, or how long they're going to have to be on set, as a guardian, I think it is okay to go and talk to the producer on set, to talk to the coordinator
Right.
on set,
Yes.
and let them know that, hey, we have X hours left.
And I will
Shoot
say
time.
that is one of the biggest challenges as a performer. It's keeping your energy up on set through the thick and thin of production, chaos, cuts, things moving around, so many moving parts around you,
Yeah.
to stay focused and keep your energy up. And, I know it's just as difficult when I lived in New York, and I went to the open call auditions for Broadway shows. This was
Yes.
my first couple of years in New
Those
York.
long lines.
The long lines. This is before being in the union or equity or any of that. You have to wait in like American Idol style lines, like it wraps
Right.
around the building. And I did that for a little bit till deciding I want to focus more on film TV, because it really takes a lot of your time. You have to really want it that
Yeah.
bad. Some of my friends, 5 a.m., they're in line. They get their coffee, they do their thing, they're warming up
Yeah.
in line, right? Doing all sorts of things. And then they're doing their makeup in line.
Yeah.
They're doing all that stuff. And then finally, it's like 1 p.m., mind you, several hours later, and you go into the room and you have like 2 minutes to sing.
Yeah.
They say thank you and you're out. And that is, its own experience.
And coming back to no feedback. Remember, after an audition, we talked about that.
Not having, right, and just having to move on.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of expectations in, these projects from the get-go to when you show up. And I think what's important continuously is knowing who your point contact is. It's
Yeah.
exactly what you said. Now, sometimes it'll be the casting director who got you in on that.
Yeah.
They'll be your go-to. Maybe that's the only person's contact info you have, especially initially. At other times, when the call sheet's sent out, you have producers on there.
Right.
Usually, your contact is the first or second assistant director
Oh, yeah,
for
correct.
major film sets or television
Right.
shows. It's the ADs, it's the producing team, and that's who you're speaking to. But beyond that, it's your rep, it's your agent, your manager. And if you're not repped yet, it's important to have someone you trust, like your acting coach or a business mentor, where you can say, hey, is this normal? I've been waiting this long, or they asked me to sign this, or, my agent tells me when you get to set, snap a pic of anything they're going to give you and
Right.
send me it immediately.
Right.
And they help me look at that in real time if I'm ever given paperwork on the spot. So you never have to sign anything on the spot. You can always ask for more time
Right,
too.
right.
But that's very helpful for me. So always knowing who your point contact is, no matter what.
So I didn't realize that even as a adult artist on set, that you will have last minute paperwork to sign. I thought
Yes.
that it's all like pre-done. Like,
Sometimes paperwork is given last minute from the production
Yeah.
company. It's separate from the terms that were negotiated with the agent or manager. That's usually like,
done a bit ahead of time.
And it could be as simple as, an email or just an agreement.
Yeah.
But the actual signing is mostly done in person.
Yeah, because sometimes like we had an experience where it was a commercial and there were like lots and lots of kids involved, and my younger one was like quite young at that time. So to kind of run around last minute while you're on set early morning for like things that we weren't told ahead of time, and that might have been a miss on like someone's part, but it was like ID, it was birth certificate, it was the W9, all of these forms that needed to be filled in the last minute. And so I'm like scrambling to get all of that emailed to me from home. And lesson learned from that experience, my expectation go forward was like, I'll carry everything with me on set. So anything that they need last minute, I have it, So
Absolutely.
it's good to be prepared.
Let's talk about that more. Let's
Yeah.
talk about being prepared. One of the first things I encourage a lot of my clients, actors that are coaching with me, is to read every detail of what you're sent from production. And, you should have a couple calls coming in once you book something from production. You'll have a call sheet sent to you from the AD or a producer.
Okay.
You'll also have usually a text message or a phone call come in from wardrobe because they want to tell you either what outfits to bring in if it's not budgeted, or they want to get your sizes and have you bring backups if they're going to pull stuff for you, or a combination. And sometimes you'll hear from the director as well to welcome you or to talk with you about the character or the vision so you can really nail it down, especially if there's minimal or no rehearsal or no table read with the entire team. So there's a couple calls coming in here ultimately. And it's important to ask each person any questions. And before I arrive at any set, I make sure that I have the contact info and number of who I need to reach, because what if I get there and no one's there? Maybe I was sent a wrong address or I typed something in wrong on my part. Just having the security net of being able to reach out to someone immediately and having read all the instructions they sent, from being off book to what to bring, to where to show up, where to park, where to go once you park. A lot of those details are sent, and if they're not, to ask those questions.
Exactly, and also it's just better to be extra prepared, right? Because you're already going in, and the mindset is you are performing that day. You have to be, in good mind. You have to be clear. You have to be able to give your best shot.
Yes.
And so you don't want these organizational, administrative details to kind of bring you down. And it is definitely the responsibility of the producers on set to make sure that the artists are well taken care of. And I'm big on vibe and energy because my experience is more in music related sets.
Yes.
So as someone that is in and around music videos, a lot of your performers are like singing and dancing on set, and you really need just great energy on set for people to give their best work, and they really want to bring forth their best performance when they are treated well, and that's really important. So I think we both have experience of being on both sides of the coin, as an artist as well as the producer on set.
Of course. And when you have good experiences, a lot of those people want to work with you again, and you want to work with them.
Yeah, and having a team around you that you can lean on, like you said, agents, managers, that you can call and feel like, hey, listen, I'm putting in, because this is your day's work. And, yes, I come back to like the music industry does not have HR. There is no governing person to take care of the interests of, say, songwriters' needs, to take the interests of producers' needs. And even artists, can be vulnerable in many situations. It is so important to have a reliable team. It could be your attorney, could be an agent, could be a manager that you can like lean on to be like, I need support with this. This is a set that I am struggling in. I'm not able to put forth my best work. And having said that, you also have to manage your expectations as an artist and know, prioritize what is important and adjust accordingly.
And I think for actors, for dancers, singers, it's important to have that practice before arriving on set. Not only in the material you're about to present, that should be second nature, but also in the field that you're about to step into. Don't let it be the first time you get on set with 50 people around you for this big project. Have a simulation of that, even if it's a student film you do, or it's something you put together with some friends, or you try your best to just put that pressure on in a healthy way to make sure you can really hit those marks. Because that's the reality of it. When you're on set, there's a lot of distractions. There are a lot of people watching you, and especially if it comes down to something intimate, perhaps, or something with a lot of choreography, a lot of memorization, whether it's lines or dance moves. It takes focus, and you need to not be distracted and stay in the zone.
What are some examples as a young up-and-coming actor, for example? How do you simulate such situations if you haven't booked a role yet? What are some examples of sets you can volunteer to be on?
Great question.
To gain some experience.
I'm so glad you asked that. One of the best things any filmmaker starting off can do, whether they're an actor, whether they want to be a producer, a script supervisor, a writer, is to volunteer or try to find a job as a PA, a production assistant, on any set. You know, I was a PA, I told you, on the first project I did, that feature I mentioned, and then got bumped to do casting, and it was a great experience for me behind the scenes. But seeing as a PA how all the moving pieces are being run, who the heads are, who to report to, and being able to be a good PA is to think ahead and think on your feet and, you know, have a premonition of what might happen next and be able to see it and solve it or be there for that situation, whether it's an item someone needs or getting ready for the next shoot location or setting up for dinner if it's almost break time and ready for cast and crew with a tight turnaround to do their meal and get back for the next location. It's a lot of transitions and chaos and people. And I think being a PA really helps you see it from an outsider, not an outsider because you're in, but a perspective where you're not a department head, you're not talent. The pressure artistically is not on you for those reasons, but is there for you to help move the machine forward, to assist. And that's one of the best ways to really learn what happens on a set, to see actors in that craft and to be able to bring that to the table when it's your time.
Yeah, no, and I think that when one volunteers or tries to get that experience, if you do a great job on that first project, you are invited back to other projects by the same crew, or you can apply with that experience to like newer projects.
My biggest acting lessons were my first handful of times on set watching the actors, especially in that feature. Correct. I mean, you really learn a lot the first time you do something. Right. Your firsts, you'll never forget. Yeah. And I remember, you know, watching the cast have one rehearsal where the director is like, okay, you're going to walk in here, a little bit of blocking, get to this table, and go. And they never even got to do all the lines through. And they just started to do a take. And they were so natural and they were in the space and it looked so real. And especially having come from a theater background initially, it's a whole other world and you have to do the prep. There are no rehearsals like in theater where we meet and we work towards opening night. You show up on set and it's time to go. You'll find rehearsals when there's stunt work involved or you know, something physical perhaps, some special effects perhaps, but generally speaking, especially with quick turnarounds, tight budgets, you have to show up and deliver. Yeah,
and we're talking about the experience as an up-and-coming artist.
Yes.
You know, you are an emerging performer. And these are the important tools to get to that point where maybe you'll end up having a huge budget film and you'll have a lot of support, a lot of assistance. Maybe you'll have like extensive table reads to prepare you ahead of time. But as an emerging artist, you may have to just rely on your incredible talent, your great organizational skills to show up and deliver, and then you do a great job and then you're invited again or you're booking again.
And if you're delivering as a production assistant so that you can, you know, get your feet wet and explore and just really learn how these sets work, I would say don't hesitate to ask questions and ask the right people questions. Don't go up to the director who's busy. Go up to your point contacts, your head production assistant coordinator, or go up to one of the producers or ADs and ask the right questions to help them move things forward. They'll appreciate that and see you're looking ahead. And an alternative to being a production assistant for actors, I suggest you do background work on a major motion picture once. I said once, and I'll tell you why, Kavita, because I don't want any young actors that really want to do this to get stuck doing background work for a while. Sure, you can make a living off of it. Some people do, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. And it's so important and exciting. I'm just saying, if your goal is to be a leading player, is to have speaking roles, you should not be doing non-speaking parts in the background. Your energy should go towards speaking roles. But being on a set as a background actor, where you can still be on camera with the stars and the leads and the co-stars in that environment, resetting, doing it again, learning to keep it consistent. That's one thing that you won't be able to do as a PA. If you're background, you can. And then when you're the star, when you have the speaking part, consistency is key. Hitting your mark the same. If you ever watch movies where you're like, oh, her hand was just, her arms were crossed, and now they're on her hips, you know, and the cut doesn't make sense. Well, it's because they weren't consistent. They decided to not cross their arms at that line. But ultimately, it's important to be able to be consistent and it's important to be flexible.
Yeah.
I showed up on set for a project recently, super prepared, ready to go. I had this idea of the character, and boom, I did my first take.
Yeah.
And the director, came and talked to me, and he's like, I want you to do it more like this.
Okay.
And that was not a testament that they didn't like what I did, or it was wrong, or it was right. It's a testament of their vision, how they
Yeah.
see it. And because we don't have rehearsals per se,
Right.
this is the only short time to really work together and collaborate.
Right.
This conversation is the collaborative moment between
Yeah.
the director and the actor.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
something to actually really enjoy
Yeah.
and look forward to. So I try to listen attentively then,
Yeah.
really understand or ask a specific pointed question after. So it's sounding like you want me to do this more like this.
Yeah.
So it's sounding like the character should be more like that. Yeah, sure. Oh, no, it's more, oh, I got it now.
Right.
And then I go into another take. And there have been times where I do that next take, and the director says, hey, actually this time, I want you to not look back when you walk away from that character.
Yeah.
And again, it has nothing to do with your choices. It might be something visual on screen, a moment in creating tension or, storytelling that you don't see because you're not looking at that monitor. But you have to be able to then adjust and take that note immediately and deliver. And hey, that's an easy note. There are a lot harder notes to take.
And that is the craft. That's the essence of the craft, is that you're, naturally gifted and you're
Right.
able to deliver, but then taking feedback, implementing that, and bettering your next delivery is where that secret sauce is. And
Absolutely.
that is so important. That's an artist's role.
And keeping the energy up during it,
Yeah.
especially between all the hurry up and wait and the expectations and mixed expectations.
yeah.
It's tough, but it's
Yeah.
real, and it's definitely possible, especially with a good team.
Yeah, and it's an ongoing conversation. I think that we'll have future episodes where we continue to talk about experiences on set
Yes.
and the different nuances that we'll end up knowing about. So.
Yeah. And we're curious to hear about some of your experiences on set. If you're listening to this on any of your platforms or on YouTube or catching us on social, let us know in the comments. What have some of
Yeah.
your experiences on set been like? And can you relate?
Yeah, absolutely. And we would love to hear about it and engage and converse about this.
Yeah, let's have more of a conversation.
Yes.
With that, time to
Yep.
talk about our pop culture moment.
Yes, I was thinking a lot this week about stuff that was popping up on my TikTok and Instagram feeds. And this was something it's new, yet it's been there, done that. It's been happening for, years. Rock concerts,
Yes.
musicians performing
Yes.
on stage. It's been decades that people, like fans, would be throwing things at their favorite star and their favorite artist because they love them. Rock stars in the 80s have had like panties thrown at them, and they've had like all kinds of bracelets and stuff thrown at them. And it happens, it's been happening. But in recent months, there's some strange situation where we're seeing like, objects like I don't know, it was like little, like a pen, it was like a little lighter, things like that were being thrown. And these are solid objects, and given distance and speed, it can be a weapon.
Yeah, right.
It can
Dangerous.
It can be dangerous. It can actually hurt you depending on the speed it's coming at, the velocity, the distance it's coming from, right? So it can hurt the performer on stage, and it's not fun having anything thrown at you. I'm sure it was never fun even having something soft thrown at you, but because it's distracting in that moment, you're giving a good performance and you're wanting to please your fans,
Right.
and you're wanting to, make them happy and entertain them, and then you have this thing thrown at you, right? It is disconcerting.
Yeah.
And I think reading about 3 or 4 incidents happening back to back, and I think also one of the articles was saying that we're in a post-COVID era. We're in a post-COVID time where we're also used to keeping a distance and having that boundary.
Having that computer screen
Yeah.
separating you, perhaps?
No, and so people are all very happy to come back and engage
Break that
with
fourth
their,
wall.
Exactly.
Literally.
With their, idols and come and see them perform. So they think maybe this is their way of staying connected. Is like, oh my God, let me show you my love by throwing a teddy bear on you that I got.
Listen, I've
What do you
heard
think? Like, as a performer, like, I can't imagine.
the scenarios I've seen, for example, Chris Brown and Usher at both their concerts, a lot of panties get thrown their way.
Yeah.
Now, I've also seen from their concerts off to many other artists, cell phones being thrown on stage because the fan wants them to pick up the phone and do a video or a selfie with it, give them some love on their item, and then hopefully throw it back. I'm not sure how they'd get their phone, honestly. But what I thought was most interesting, because a lot of those artists I just mentioned, they do interact and take those items. I've seen that on social. But one artist, Adele, I don't know if you saw, but
No,
she
what did she do?
posted from her Vegas residency. She loves to talk and chatter
Yeah.
and have, conversation herself.
Yeah.
We have that in common
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Adele.
yeah.
We love a good conversation with the audience. And she told them in a British accent, she said, don't you dare throw
Yeah.
a phone at me.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
She was
for her.
She was like, don't you
Good
dare
for her.
throw
I'm so glad
anything.
that
She
she did
goes, if
that.
you do, I will knock you out. Throw it right back at you.
Yeah, I think
It's just
that's,
not appropriate.
I think that's a fair stance to take. It's kind of like a fine line. It's confusing. I think people were okay with it back in the day. I don't know what was thrown, and it was just a culture that was expected, accepted.
And rock concerts are different, though.
I guess so.
I'm not saying it makes it okay
No,
to
no,
throw
never
something.
makes it okay. If an
but,
artist is
when
a
I imagine
performance-
rock concert, I also picture like guitar
Yeah.
being broken
Sure.
and
Yeah, yeah,
headbanging
yeah.
and
Yeah.
rocking out.
Fire.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
all
no,
of that. Yeah.
nevertheless, we don't
Still,
throw things at
you
people.
don't,
I
and I
think
think
regardless of the medium.
Yeah, BB Rexa, Harry Styles, they had
Yes.
solid objects thrown at them,
Yes,
and I know
Bibi
that it
Rexa.
hurt.
She was scarred. She had a
yeah.
bruise on her forehead
Yes.
from a phone being thrown at her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Was it a phone? I forgot
was
what
a
it
phone,
was.
yeah.
And Harry Styles had something thrown at him recently. It went into his eye. So the poor guy was trying to just handle it and be, still coming back out and performing and being, kind to the audience. And I don't know. I think it's just so rude.
Right.
And I think that people that do that should just realize that it's hurting the performer. And I think it's just not
Absolutely.
etiquette.
Right. And this is all about audience etiquette.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so important just to be courteous
Yeah.
of those having the experience.
Yeah,
with you.
exactly.
Yeah.
Sharing that experience with kindness and courtesy is so important. But yeah.
I love it. It just
Yes.
sounds like today's theme overall was kindness, whether
Yeah.
you're new, going to a set that's new to you, working with people you don't know, or it's a familiar scene, or you're going to a concert of your favorite artist,
Yeah.
leading with kindness, treating others with kindness is key.
Exactly. Courtesy is very important to have, and I think that it starts with doing that in every environment you're in, and it'll extend into such performance-related situations as well.
I love it.
Yes.
Well, you've all been so kind to tune in today.
Yes.
And we hope you leave us some feedback. Please subscribe, give us 5 stars, send that love our way, send that kindness our way,
Yes.
and we'll send it right back. Interact with us, TikTok, Instagram, and, we'll definitely be in response.
Yes, it's the best energy here, great vibes, and looking forward to sharing more of these experiences with you all.
Next week.
Yes.
So till then, my name is Walid Shaya,
I'm Kavita.
and have a great, great day.
Thank
Cheers.
you.
Bye.
Cheers.
Hey, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow on Instagram and TikTok. We love interacting. Also, the content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, which we love, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from Lights Camera Conversation or our individual authors, hosts, or guests. Nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. We always encourage you to do your research. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by Lights Camera Conversation. The views expressed by speakers are their own, and their appearance on our program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity that they represent. Thanks for listening, and until next time, have a great day.